am the teeth in the darkness, the I am Ripper, Tearer, Slasher, Gouger. I am the teeth in the darkness, the talons in the night. Mine is strength and lust and power. I am Beowulf!
And fear not them.
Hello, everyone.
Body, but are not
this is
able to kill
DDoS.
the soul.
Today I am here with Mr. Michael F. Bell. This gentleman has a remarkable story to tell you, and he's experienced this for himself. It's not secondhand information you're about to get. It's from his own experiences, and it's very, very pertinent. So without further ado, Mr. Bell, thank you for joining me, sir.
It's nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I think you have a little something prepared for the folks who haven't heard of you and heard one of your great interviews on Coast to Coast.
Thank you. Yes, I have something. I have an introduction. What happened to me was in 2008, I was drugged and abducted from my apartment in Hollywood, California. And I remember the perpetrators wearing frightening masks and at one point lying on a stainless steel table with a bright light shining on me, and surgeons wearing surgical masks standing over me. I woke up thinking that it was the next morning, but to my horror, I discovered that it was actually 8 days later. And my body was riddled with dozens of tiny corresponding and symmetrical covert cosmetic surgery incision scars. I consulted with several private investigators and a former CIA agent that informed me that it sounded like I had become what is known as a targeted individual, and that I had possibly been implanted with advanced nanotechnology biomedical devices. So I literally traveled around the world collecting medical evidence in the form of MRIs, ultrasounds, x-rays, all with verified and validated real doctor's reports, all clearly showing foreign objects directly beneath the covert surgery incision scars that I had on my body. The private investigators and former CIA agent all told me that I was likely part of a massive field test and illegal clinical trial of human experimentation using classified technologies. This technology is the most advanced weapon system ever created by mankind, a weapon in every sense of the word. This program is widely recognized as an unacknowledged special access program, believed to be part of the military-industrial complex, which is composed of the military black ops, the military, the Department of Defense, NSA, Department of Justice, and the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, a human experimentation program that causes extreme psychological terror as well as physical torture. This kind of illegal human experimentation is considered a war crime and is the highest ranking type of capital crime punishable by the death penalty. Technology is way ahead of the law. The law has a lot of catching up to do.
Wow, brother. And I want to say on behalf of my entire channel, I'm sorry for what you've been put through. So the first question that one would ask is, why do you think that you were targeted? What like individually about you? Was it, do you think it's something from your history of education or work, or?
I think it may. You asked that question yourself so many times. If you're a target individual, you want to know why, or was it random? Was it deliberate? I believe that it may have something to do with when I was 19 years old, I was responsible for a car accident, and
Oh
the
man.
person who was in the car with me happened to be part of one of the most powerful, most influential, wealthiest families in the world. Um, and this person was severely handicapped in the accident. So I believe that it might be retribution for that. But I besides that, I don't know. I think that some of the people that are being targeted are simply random targets.
Right.
There may be specific reasons for certain people, but in order to complete this kind of research that you need to conduct when you have technology like this, it needs it, it's something that has to be tested on a person.
And
And
different people as well, I
who
would
would
think.
and who would volunteer for such experiments? Probably not too many people.
Not too many at all. Maybe a few momos and dum dums here and there, but no. For the things that you have described and that I've heard, nobody within their right mind would volunteer for anything like that. And like you said, in these type of experiments, just like ones with legal pharmaceuticals, they want people from every age group, from every race, from every background, and a lot of times it does seem randomized because it's just that it's random. They're picking random people at random times from random different circumstances and backgrounds because somebody is pulling all that data into and pulling it together. You know
That's
what I mean?
correct.
Like that's what makes sense to me.
That's the key word. That's what it's all about. It's about the data
And it's a
collecting.
wicked thing, bro. Yeah, it's a wicked, like, to use people against their will, which kidnap folks, torture them for information that's going to, and in my mind, I just see it lining someone's pockets because it's evil. I mean, at the kidnapping phase, it's evil. But to do that to someone as if they were a computer program is just a wicked thing.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's hard to believe once you realize what's happened to you if you are a targeted individual, because there's different degrees of being targeted. None of them are good, but that there are different degrees of being targeted, and uh, you wonder why you were chosen, but you don't really ever get the answer. And if you got the answer, would you agree with it? You don't even
Right.
know.
And as you said that, I was just thinking, after a while, it wouldn't matter why. There would be no justification to it. Um, it's very unfortunate. But you talked about the different levels. I've talked to folks who have just the local gang stalking, where new
Right.
people move to town and they're just being harassed to the umpteenth degree. But then you're the other end of the spectrum. You're at the highest levels possible, where they are literally kidnapping you, doing experimentation. Um, would you like to tell some of the folks, for all that you care to go into, what some of
Sure.
these things were and what you've learned from what
Yeah.
the
Well, I'll tell you. I'll just give you some basic information on this crime. Um, it doesn't really have a name. The people that are affected by it are called targeted individuals, but um, the crime itself has so many different facets that it's difficult to put it all under one. It's just the crime, the whole thing. But
right,
the perpetrator groups in the categories, I have some information for that. My information is based on information I have gathered from private investigators, a former CIA agent, corresponding with and interviewing thousands of targeted individuals from around the world, and my own personal research and experience. The perpetrators are part of the global criminal cabal or the cartel, and it can be broken down into three categories. The primary handler teams are composed of operatives believed to be using classified technologies which enable remote viewing, monitoring, tracking, torturing, mind mining, dream inserting, electronic sleep depriving target individuals 24/7, operating outside the law with complete impunity.
Wow.
The second group is the organized stalkers. Those are contract group stalkers, cause stalkers, or gang stalkers, some people call them, working at the street level as foot soldiers, following, leading, and harassing targeted individuals wherever they go out publicly, globally. And then there's a third set of, there may be more, but these are just the three primary ones. Unwitting perpetrators, believed to be mind-controlled ordinary citizens that harass targeted individuals on an unconscious level, unaware of their actions, being remotely directed by their own set of handlers. So that's another thing too. And then the handler teams themselves, you have to think about, you have to understand that the handler teams themselves are believed to be composed of a minimum of 4 people working in 12-hour shifts with 2 people posted at each shift. Some handler teams will have as many as 6 or 8 or more members working in 6 to 8 hour shifts with 2 people posted at each shift, operating 24/7, 365 days a year. Each team will most likely have a computer specialist, as the manipulation of the target individual's computer and email are a crucial part of the mind control process. Each team will also likely have a psychologist as well as an electronic specialist for phone tapping and manipulation of the electrical grid of the targeted individual's residence. The handler teams are reportedly deluded into thinking that their ongoing human experimentation tests that they are conducting are for reasons other than that of military research. It's unlikely that perpetrators will ever come forward to reveal their operations, as it's highly illegal and breaks dozens of laws. But perhaps the conscience of at least one of these basically good people will drive them to expose this cruel and inhumane crime against humanity.
Wow, that's so much to unpack. Every sentence had something critical and crucial in it. First, the thing that sticks out the most is, and I'll tell you a story after I ask this. Do you think that this is all? You talked about remote viewing, but you were saying it's from your research, and from what you've experienced, it's linked to technology. Now, I think it's declassified documents now that the CIA was working with individuals all the way up until the 80s on being able to remote view locations and whatnot, and there was actual success from that. And this was the spiritual aspect of it. Now they've basically put it in a perfected box that they can control by using technologies. Does that sound like somewhat accurate as to what's taking place today?
Yes, very, very good description. And also, I wanted to say to the listeners, I mentioned to you before, for the listeners that are and viewers that are not familiar with my books, but they want to learn something and get educated quickly. In the meantime, there is a website that I wanted to mention that is free. It's completely free, and
freedomfighters.com.
freedomfightersforamerica.com, and there you will see actual criminal biomedical implant devices, what they look like, the manufacturers, brain computer interface technology, all explained with diagrams and photographs, and actual pictures of targeted individuals with implanted devices that showed up in MRIs and ultrasounds and x-rays, all on that website. So it's very educational.
Absolutely. And this is, and I've just having done this for so long and talked to individuals, especially with the UFO stuff, I don't believe that these people are necessarily experiencing what's been projected into their minds that they think they are. Sometimes it may be, but from the folks that I've talked to, it's very similar to things I've heard you speak of, especially with the implants, the whole kidnapping, and they think they've been gone an hour and it's been 7 hours. The lost time, we experienced that in the field investigations for Bigfoot and whatnot. I believe that the hand of wicked man is in this more than what people think. And the story I was going to tell you is a gentleman told me about 2 years ago that it's a small town in Texas. And to make a long story short, there was this woman who moved in and she'd been causing a lot of supernatural troubles. They'd seen strange things around her house. She'd leave the blinds open. They'd see strange things taking place in her house. Well, this gentleman went to this place as she was going crazy, all this noise coming out, and she was packing the entire house, couch and everything, into a bag like Mary Poppins. And he saw some machine, this device that all this woman had hooked up. And when he pulled this big plug on it, it was a screen. It was some sort of technology that she was using to torture this cul-de-sac neighborhood. And everybody watching through their windows, seeing this woman pack her entire house into a bag, couches and everything, it all went away. So does that sound anything close to some of the technologies that you're aware of? I mean, it sounds like they're using technology in place of what our ancestors would refer to as magic.
Yes, that does sound familiar.
Wow.
That's. But I also wanted to say something else, that the amount of money that is being spent on targeted individuals, especially at a targeted individual at my level of targeting, is an unfathomable $10 billion a year per person. Per target.
Person.
Per target.
Wow.
But imagine, people don't understand how that money, how you can come up with those kind of figures. But you have to remember that for a person at my level of targeting, I'm being monitored and surveillanced around the clock. One of the reasons that I believe that what's happened to me is, and so many other people, is that I believe I've been illegally, wrongly placed on the terror watch list. You see, once you've been placed on that list, then the 24 hours, 24/7 surveillance is all paid for. Once you're on that list, whatever it cost will be covered. It's unlimited to what can be spent. But and for people at my level of targeting, a lot of people will notice, if they're paying attention, that each night after the sunset, about a half an hour, 45 minutes after the sunset, before the celestial sky appears in the sky, I start seeing helicopters and drones that are approximately 5,000 to 7,000 feet in altitude. So they're about a mile, a little bit over a mile above a mile above you, and you can see the light on the helicopter or the drone. And sometimes I can only see so much because I'm up on top of a mountain. I can only see so many of these. I can count 20 or 30 sometimes, or more, at least the ones that I can see. But each one of these stealth helicopters, for them, you have to look at it from the military standpoint. Every night is a mission. Each night is a mission for them. So each night is a mission with the Sikorsky UH-60 Black Hawk Black Ops stealth helicopter at a cost of $60 million a full crew, including backup pilots, technicians monitoring the targeted individuals, fuel for over 12 hours of flight time at a cost to the American taxpayer of anywhere from $250,000 to over $1 million per night per aircraft.
Say that one more time, because like I'm from Southern Oklahoma and our figures only go so high down here. Like, that was how much per night per aircraft?
For a Sikorsky UH-60 Blackhawks helicopter,
Right.
with the crew and with the fuel cost and the full crew and pilots,
Salaries and everything.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah, that all costs, and then they have to pay people to look the other way.
Right.
There's secrecy and deception. So each night is $250,000 to $1 million or more a night, equipped with the latest classified technologies.
And this is per craft.
That's per helicopter. And I'll have 20 or 30 that I can count. I mean, at some point I can only see so far because there's a tree line and I'm up on top of a mountain, but and it depends on what time of the year. But I mean, let's say on the high end that's $1 million per night per aircraft. If there's 20 or 30, that's 20 or $30 million for that night, just for that night,
And it's every night.
And this is all night, every night, for the rest of your life. And if you move, if like for me, when I went to another country, the helicopters were there. It's global. So if you move, wherever you go, there's already a team waiting in place. So you can't really escape.
That's phenomenally sad. I don't even know what to say there. So for you to go to a different country and for that to happen, that's proof positive that it is worldwide.
Correct. It's global.
To what end do you think that they would? Why would they target you so heavily? Like, is there? Are there? I don't even know how to ask the question. What would they have to learn, or is it just some sort of torturing they're doing to you? I don't see, to what end are they doing this? Like,
It's what's happening to me. I believe that the program that I'm in, because you after so many years of being exposed to this program, you wonder what your part is, what's your part of this program, what's your value to it.
Right. Why is this happening, like, consistently and constantly?
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't really know exactly why, but it's something that that most people probably wouldn't believe. But I wanted to say also, before I forget, I wanted to include something that I apportioned some because people want to know. Yes, it's based on my experiences and private investigators and my research, but also things like this is a key one for the listeners and for the viewers. This person, Dr. James Giordano, The Brain is the Battlefield of the Future. The 2018 presentation opened the door to revealing to the general public's military agenda in its pursuit of fully controlling and affecting the human brain remotely from great distances. This chief of the Neurology and Neuroethics Studies program at Georgetown University, among other positions he holds, he's an advisor to DARPA and to the Cabience Group. This is Dr. James Giordano, who I was talking about. His lecture revealed for the first time what we are capable of using the brain sciences or neuroscience. It validates and legitimizes the existence of advanced nanotechnology and brain-computer interface. In this lecture, he said, I give you no science fiction. In this lecture, I only give you science fact that may smell of fiction, but shows the reality of what the brain sciences are capable of. And it's the military agenda is interested in the potential weaponization of the brain sciences or neuroscience for misuse and nefarious agendas, both political and military. And then he said in his lecture, he said, although the sky isn't falling yet, folks, it looks like rain. But what will be raining down? What will be raining down? So this is the key component. The nanotechnology and biotechnology filter down through the hydrosphere to the water supply and food chain, this is potentially making everyone in the United States may already be infected without even being aware of it. The movie The Matrix was a tale of science fiction, yes, but it's beginning to look more like a documentary every day. And it's not a conspiracy when the information is being made public. That is just an average person not being aware. And what has gone from the chalkboard to reality is the use of interfacing with the brain, being able to read and write directly into the brain. It puts the brain at our fingertips. Nanotechnology can allow for an interface between the human brain and the global informational cloud. This is possible through supercomputers using and interfacing and transferring encoded data to and from the brain at light speed, with the supercomputers being remotely linked, believed to the cerebral cortex, and manipulating the brain using bioalgorithms, wirelessly transferring and coding data to and from the cloud-based supercomputer network for real-time monitoring and data extraction. The Utah Data Center collects, matches, stores all data communications, all calls, texts, emails, fax, digital transactions in real time, all day, every day. And it analyzes and references, ultimately decide the power of this information. What happens when we reverse engineer the brain and develop a brain that is a machine brain with cognitive capability and emotional capability? What the information is being believed to be taken for is a synthetic avatar. The bioalgorithms are composed of the will and intellect and emotions that can be copied and then used to destroy a person. A machine, we're talking about machines that already exist now that use the word I in describing how it feels and thinks, just like Pinocchio becomes a boy. This is where we were in 2018 when this lecture was given 5 years ago. So linking machines to brains and creating machine brains, is this something we can handle? It's a tough. This is where the ethics come in. Linking brains to the internet has already been accomplished. That happened in 2017, I believe. But and then, oh, I'm sorry, I got to give you a chance to respond to all that.
With all this information, I've still yet to respond to the first set of things you do. But in all seriousness, you said something very, very interesting. I have a theory. I'm sure you're well aware of the CERN Large Hadron Collider over in Geneva, Switzerland. They're doing all sorts of nonsense with that thing.
With what? I'm sorry.
The CERN Large Hadron Collider.
I'm not familiar with that.
No kidding. You would it has the CRISPR. I'll put it to you in short. It's a large hadron collider. They accelerate particles at past the speed of light,
Oh, yes. Okay.
and they're trying.
Right.
Yeah, well, they have CRISPR-Cas9 at this facility as well. Why would they need that for experimentation in particles and particle acceleration? And you know what I mean? They have a CRISPR-Cas9 there, which is, you know what that is. They can
Right.
take, base genetic materials and create organically, technically, they can create a human body. So they have that. They have the quantum computer, which the Geordie Rose says the best way he can describe it is they dip into another universe, an alternate universe, and pull information in such a way that they're reading zeros and ones at the same time, which should be impossible because matter cannot occupy the same space as matter. So when you said that they're building this bioorganic type suit, or they're a not bioorganic, but some sort of a
Biotechnology.
biotechnology suit meant for this AI, which Elon Musk, for whatever reason, and thousands of other rich folks and smart people say they want to stop the development of AI for 6 months. I've not heard anybody really ask the question, what's so critical about stopping development for 6 months unless the development of this AI has jumped exponentially?
Well, yeah, what's happened is that today you're seeing for the first time coming to the news things that have been worked on for decades, and people are just beginning to realize how little they actually know. When you look at the global information that's available to the average human being, the information that is available to is quite a lot. But
Absolutely.
it's all the encyclopedias, all the information, all the history, it's all of that is everything is brought together. I'm just trying to see how I can explain this. I wanted to, when you asked about the, you were asking about the particles accelerating.
And I'm sorry, I didn't really put that in the way I wanted to. What my theory is on that is they have all these different types of technologies there. The CRISPR-Cas9 system, where they can take basic genetic materials and build technically a man without a soul.
Right.
The quantum computer that dips into another quote unquote alternate universe. And then they have the accelerator itself, which the director of the CERN facility said has the capability to open portals. And when they open that portal, they can send something through and something can come back. My theory is that they are trying to create some sort of living autonomous being without God's intervention.
That's what I was trying to describe. What one of the things amongst all of the other things that is believed is that I'm sorry, you were saying I didn't want to go off too.
No.
I didn't want to go off the point too much. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, what you were describing just put me in that mindset of that theory I had, because it seems like they want to. Of course, these people at the upper echelons in these secretive organizations that really are running the show, they want to take the place of God.
Right.
They are set their face against God, and they think that they are gods. And they're trying to extend this Neuralink thing that we were talking about off air, where you're hardwiring your mind into the internet, and pulling all that information directly into your brain.
Well, you have to look at it this way with what's happening to me, the experimentation that's being done to me, just as vaccines and medicines require years of testing before they're marketed, psychological weaponry must undergo extensive testing and proving. It involves Every aspect of science, neuroscience, physics, mathematics, psychology, and medicine, and all war tactics, techniques, and methods. Basically, the sum of all human knowledge. The neurological testing and experimentation contain both physical and psychological elements. The experiments are mainly conducted with whispers, jolts, and vibrations and holographic images, although seen as physical, are psychological, although they are seen as physical. Mind control techniques tested on targeted individuals are expected to be used on foreign military, heads of countries, their cabinet members, and government authorities, heads of large companies and corporations and their employees, particularly businesses that manufacture military strategic materials, religious leaders, scientists, particularly those that work on defense projects, journalists and reporters are all people that it's believed to be tested on.
That's so just about everybody. I find it very, very strange, but it makes all the sense in the world.
Well,
That all these leaps and bounds that they take, it's not because they're so smart, it's because they are kidnapping people and running all this technology through them. And they've probably...
Are you there? Hello?
Folks, can y'all still hear me? All right, back.
Now I can hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, all right. You fell. I'm pretty sure. I think you fell off this time. So it's hard to tell sometimes. But I saw that you had dropped off, and I'm like,
I was worried there.
The real deal. But
I thought you. Well, also, I have to say, in all fairness, when I do an interview like this, there are times where the technology is tested, where I get a poor connection. Sometimes that may be a coincidence, but with this subject matter,
yeah, I don't believe in coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence, happenstance, nor chance. Yeah, but you don't have to worry about it here because this platform belongs to God Almighty, and these people who put you through this, they're of their father, the devil, in my opinion, because it's a wicked, evil, devilish thing to take people at random and run these experiments because it's only benefiting them, the ones that in the upper echelons, and that's how it makes sense how they can spend so much money. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I said before, you have to understand the costs, but if it's costing the government and the criminal cabal, which is above the military, if it's costing them $10 billion a year to surveillance and monitor one person, imagine what that information is being sold for. 10, 20, 30 billion. Maybe it cost them 10 billion a year to invest in it, but how much is that going to turn around? Obviously,
that's chilling.
$10 billion is not that much to these people.
No, and of course they're going to turn a profit either way. That's what they are. They're the shadiest businessmen this side of heaven. But it's remarkable to me how, and it all makes sense. It's remarkable to me how all these technologies, this interlace thing that Elon Musk has done, where that's
right.
It's leaning towards, it was science fiction, but what they speak of in science fiction usually is what they're trying to get us to become accustomed to. Look at Star Trek from the 60s. The wireless devices.
They're desensitizing the world.
Yes, sir.
So that when it's announced that people can read each other's minds, people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm used to that. I heard that a long time ago." They're just desensitizing the people to those ideas, so that they can just slip them in, and
Absolutely.
People don't really understand. They don't understand the full power of those ideas.
They don't understand the full power of, you're absolutely right. They don't, not only do they not understand the full power of those ideas, but it's a part of Crowleyism to me, because he had this way of this witch language. He would tell you what he's going to do. And if you didn't protest, you came into agreement with it. Now, when they come through these movies with this super realistic looking violence and all these technologies and everything, if you don't, I believe if you don't come against this, if you don't protest it, then you're allowing yourself to succumb to it. Allowing them to do whatever they want to do, run roughshod.
Right. It's hard to imagine that this is what I was going to say before I lost myself. I was going to say that the average person only knows, it's estimated that even if you know everything in the encyclopedias, you know all the knowledge that is given to us as a global community, you only know about 7 to 11% of all the knowledge that is out there. It's not very much. You figure if it's the low end, if it's 7% that we know as a global community, that means 93% of the information is being withheld from the
Exactly.
people.
But where's the outcry? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Nobody. And what's really sad about it is that what we're in, supernatural, paranormal, truther, I guess if that's still being used, this field that we've inundated ourselves in, where folks are just looking for the truth. You'll find more currency and more truth in these subjects that are supposed to be about this far out stuff than you would on the evening news.
Oh yeah.
And people still trust the news like they did when our parents were around. Walter Cronkite sat up there and was just translating events verbatim, you know, and that
right.
And that mindset's still there somehow, and it blows my mind that folks have seen it. They've seen the news lie to us, and lead us astray.
How about when they lied about the U.S. diplomats in Cuba and the diplomats that claimed that they were attacked and tortured by ultrasonic acoustic weapons, causing severe headaches, pain, and permanent hearing damage? The FBI, medical services, and doctors were quick to respond and seemed quite familiar with the effects of these dangerous covert weapons. Yet, targeted individuals that are being attacked by what is believed to be identical covert weapons are dismissed and declared mentally ill to cover up the truth. So you have to consider those things too. Also, I wanted to say one other thing, that a lot of times during my radio interviews, like this interview, I believe my perpetrators, the criminals that are affecting me, are using a similar frequency weapon on me, trying to diminish my ability to communicate effectively to the listeners, jamming and dulling my focus, disorienting me, and as I try to form and convey thoughts, even sometimes mid-sentence, compromising my credibility. So I believe sometimes that during an interview like this, sometimes, people are like, they're in the middle of the sentence. You see people all the time today. You'll be in a sentence with somebody and they'll be telling you something and then they'll go, I just forgot what I was going to tell you. But is that really are they really being made to forget? Or is it something more? You have to wonder with the capabilities.
Yeah, I never really thought about that. With 5G capabilities, it has the power to and it goes through matter, this signal. And they said that they can program this signal with certain codes and inundate people with messages and whatnot. But for me, I do that all the time. But that's just because I'm a dumb okie. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just sincerely forget in the middle of a sentence. But I understand exactly what you're saying. What you're saying. I was little levity.
Sometimes it's already happened a couple of times to me already tonight, that for a split second, luckily I have some notes and you're kind to remind me of where I last got lost. But yes, to know that we only know such a small percent of what's out there. You feel like you're being, just that you're being lied to with only being given a certain amount of information. You're obviously being lied to, because if 93% or somewhere in that area is being withheld from you, and you're paying for it, it's coming from your taxes. At some point you feel ripped off.
Yeah, you feel ripped off, and you're mad about it. I was
Right.
sitting there thinking when you first mentioned that, like, this is what our taxpayer dollars is going towards. It gets allocated probably in some black budget project, but that black budget project is so compartmentalized. The person that's ahead of it probably don't know what's going on. It's probably a handful of scientists running their own op,
Correct.
and they're kidnapping American citizens. And for folks who don't think it's possible, look up the Tuskegee experiments. American citizens, veterans, they were giving syphilis to and observing the effects of untreated syphilis on their minds. That things on the it's on the smaller scale, and that's pretty crazy to say that that's
Right.
on the smaller scale of what's going on right now. But that may have been the preface for what's taking place with you, and unfortunately, and other people.
That's possible. It's definitely possible. I wanted to say something before I forget.
Absolutely.
I wanted to say something else. It's important for people to understand that for people that actually have been implanted with biomedical devices without their knowledge, permission, or consent, you would think that the devices themselves are so efficient that all they would need to do is be put inside someone and then and sewn up, and then the link is connected, and then that's it. It's much more complicated than that, because the human body is very soft, and it's not the ideal surface for sending and receiving signals. So it's believed by a lot of people, and you'll see examples on the website freedomfightersforamerica.com. You will see examples of the implantation process. Once the implant this is believed to be, once the implant is believed to be put into the target / victim, it's believed that being fully implanted with biomedical devices, the targeted individual victim will also have to undergo another rigorous process, because the data being harvested from the target is so crucial. The data must be accurate. The human body is relatively soft, and alone is not an ideal soundboard for the bidirectional process of telemetry and signal sending and data collection. Therefore, the target's body must be compressed. The compression of the human body is believed to happen through a series of procedures which tighten and compress the body to a state where signals and data can be transmitted efficiently, accurately. It's widely reported that by using nanowire, nanomesh, titanium clips, and an exterior coating of nanopolymer, the human body can be compressed to the point where signals and frequencies are efficiently sent and received by the military globalist cabal, the people who are in control. The data extraction is then recorded, logged, and compared and contrasted with other targeted individuals, believed other targeted individuals with similar characteristics such as age, race, gender, body weight, height, physique. And it's another, in all of this, in all of the newfound technology, it's also believed that it is possible to extract, record, and play back the memories of another person through the brain sciences and neurological weapons technology. Imagine that.
Sorry, but yeah, like it's. I've never been as flabbergasted talking to anybody before, because like there's proof of everything you're saying, and it's and everything you're saying at its genesis, I believe, and you're telling people about its culmination up to this point with everything that you've been through. The compression of the body, though, like how is that?
That's something new that you don't, no one's talked about that.
No, I've never heard that.
I tried to talk about it a little bit on one of my recent interviews, but yeah, if you were to look, I can't really show you with what my arm looks like. But if you look at like another, I'm 61. I'll be 62 this year.
You're 61. God bless you, brother. You look like you're 44.
That's kind of you to say that.
It's true.
If I stand next to someone that's my own age, a man or a woman, and I look at their arms and their legs compared to mine, they have a lot more wrinkles, and not all.
No kidding, brother. You no kidding. Like that's what I'm saying. You look like you're in your 50s,
if you look at my arm, I mean, it should have a lot of wrinkles in my legs too. But I mean, this is just, I mean, for people to understand that the compression of the body is real. You couldn't be and it makes sense too, because before this happened to me, I was 6'2", 6 foot 2 inches tall. Now, 6'2", 6.5 to 6 point, almost a full inch, or almost somewhere between an inch to 2 inches shorter than I was. And I know that people do, as you get older, you will compress down. Your body will, as an older person, it will naturally compress. But this, I'm talking about being compressed to the point that it's able to send signals back and forth. Because otherwise, with all this money that they're spending and all these helicopters and biomedical devices, if they're worthless without the data. So the data has to be accurate in order for them to, for the future. But yeah, the compression of the body is a process that no one talks about. But you can see that on that website that I told you about, freedomfightersforamerica.com. They do show, there's examples of the compression process, and
there's examples of the process.
Correct.
Wow,
yes, if you go to that website, you go to freedomfightersforamerica.com. It's free, and you go, and then there'll be side tabs. One of them is criminal biomedical implants. That's one of the tabs, one of the side tabs. And you look in that one alone, and you'll see how the brain to computer interface, how the another thing that they mentioned that I didn't talk about was the so many things. I'm jumping around. I realized one other thing I wanted to, before I forget about.
You don't have to rush, bro. Like, we can take as much time as we want.
You're nice. That's kind of unique. This is what I was going to tell you. One of the implants believed to be called the IBM 2020 neural implant. It's basic. The end purpose of that is physical control of the human mind. So this IBM 2020 neural implant is on the nanoscale a fully functioning brain and a cognitive brain inserted into a brain. This is the IBM 2020 neural chip implant that I'm talking about. According to the official report, are the following excerpts from the covertly obtained memo in obtained in October 1995 from Intel Connection. Federal regulations do not have permission of testing of implants on prisoners yet. Listed as confidential level 9. Communication 2020 neural chip implant. The surgical procedure time then was 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the given experience of the technician. The IBM 2020 neural implant was designed to monitor and surveillance for threat group activity. Test subjects were remotely disabled during an assault of correctional staff during an initial experiment. Test subjects were monitored for aggression during testing and under the effects of the IBM 2020 neural chip microchip implant. Conclusive studies showed that 7 of 8 subjects showed no aggression at all, even when provoked. Each subject had the implant device, which was retrieved under the guise of medical treatment. Each subject experienced bleeding from the nose and ears after the implant due to initial adjustment. But that's some pretty scary
That's
stuff.
heavy. That's heavy duty, Mike. That's some heavy. Now you did say IBM, like IBM,
Correct.
IBM. You know what's
This
really
is
crazy about
this is what I've read. This is what you'll see on that website I told you about. They'll actually show
and that'll
you.
be linked in the description box below, folks. And yeah, I'm sorry, Mike. What were you saying?
I was just gonna say the IBM 2020 neural chip. They actually show what it looks like and the size of it. It's unbelievable.
That's mad. But this obviously isn't out as something that they're going to market. But let me ask you this: Elon Musk and his Neuralink thing, or Neuralink rather,
Right.
like that's the preface for all this other stuff, right?
I believe to some. I mean, I think whatever the benefits don't outweigh the risks in this case. Right. And you have. I don't know what the intentions of Elon Musk are, but
I doubt they're good. He was the main evangelist against AI, yet he's ingratiated himself to the biggest AI developer on planet Earth. Now he's trying to slow it down.
It's kind of
double talk is what they call it in the Bible.
It kind of contradicts itself.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, there's other harsher ways to put it, but yes, he very much talks out of both sides of his mouth. And that's why it was kind of spooky when he was so adamant about halting on all development of AI technology for consumers for 6 months. Why 6 months? Why not 3 months? Why not 9?
Why not 4 years?
Absolutely, exactly. So there is something going on as far as the AI technology and technology in general with him being, and he's had his first successful implants, apparently.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to say was that, well, there's so many, it's hard to know where I'm going. Well, I wanted to say one other thing. Well, I guess I would mention this, the new book that I have, American Cyborg, it's subtitled The Globalist Cabal, Project Monarch, and the Military Industrial Complex. And for the people that don't know, Project Monarch is believed to be and alleged to be an offshoot of MK Ultra. The Project Monarch focused on children. Focuses on children. Project Monarch focused on children and fracturing their minds to create multiple personalities and grooming children for mind control by forcing them to compartmentalize information within their minds and not be aware of it, but could be triggered with a word or image to have the test subject instantly recall the information that was introduced through hypnosis. And then also, I must mention that depatterning or brainwashing can be achieved through remote hypnosis. Even music can be structured to contain hypnotic, unconscious influence affecting thoughts and behavior, to be able to make the test subject act on subliminal command. All the time, the victim is completely unaware, done without permission, knowledge, or consent of the victim. That's where we are today.
Absolutely. And there was Project Camelot had a couple of these people on, and I think Project Camelot, when I was watching, was a very, very credible source for this type of information. And the folks that were on there, I felt the spirit of truth move when they spoke. And the compartmentalization of this information and these fractured, and the stuff that they did to these poor kids to create these personalities that they would then upload with this information is deplorable. Deplorable to say the least. But everything you said is completely accurate. And there's multiple witnesses now in their well into their 50, 60, 70s that have came out and said the same information. Not all these people who don't know each other are telling the exact same lie.
Well, you know what I wanted to say before I forget? I agree with you too. What you're saying. I wanted to say that there's two quotes that I wanted to share with you. They're both connected some way. You'll find a connection maybe. But the first one is a quote from my first book, The Invisible Crime. This is the quote. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Arthur C. Clarke's third law in 1961. It is true too.
One of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Also, another one that one of my favorite quotes. This one by Mark Twain. Maybe you'll remember this one too. Truth is stranger than fiction, but it is because fiction is obligated to stick to possibilities. Truth isn't.
Truth is concrete. I've heard people just yesterday, brother. People will say, "Oh, well, I have my own truth. I dwell in my own truth. This is my truth." There's only one truth. People are under such self-imposed deception. It's disgusting. They'll convince, and TikTok and all the rest of the garbage that they get on with this social media, they don't realize they're having their minds rewired. Now people only are able to take in 60 seconds of information at a time. Anything more than that, their minds are wandering to lilacs in the field or something.
I realize I have to plug in. If you can hang on for 1 second, I have to get my cord and plug in.
Yeah, absolutely.
One second. I'm so sorry. I just realized I was about to run out of energy. Hold on.
That gives me time to plug my favorite cigar company, Drew Estate. If you want a good smoke and you're on a budget, I suggest Drew Estate. Acid cigars. Comes in Cuba, and Blondie. That gives me time to So, folks, while we're waiting on this gentleman, let me tell y'all something. Y'all all been with me a long time. This interview. Usually I know a whole lot about what the or at least I'm very well versed in what the guest has to talk about. And after watching this man's interviews, he's a wealth of knowledge. So
I have to plug this in. So sorry. I realized
you're all right, bro.
I was about to run out of energy in the middle, and I was like, You got it,
man. You have a lovely home too, by the way.
Well, that's kind of you to say that. Let's see. I might have to go to another room here.
It's all good, brother. Just take your time. No stress.
I'm just trying to. You're very kind to be so hospitable when in the middle of an interview I run out of.
No, I'm just old country boy. It's on and off air.
At least I kept the connection going.
Well, there you go. I told you, like, God has a little bit of extra, something going on over here. And I've been to these. I've been on shows and had shows where we talked about similar things with the strongest connection you can get at the time, and the stream just completely cuts off. This is a whole lot weaker stream, and it's still going. I mean, I can hear you just fine. I don't know about the folks out there, but it's phenomenal. So again, I appreciate you coming on. I mean, this is up in the, this is in the top tier of any interviews I've done, because you're giving folks a lot. You're giving me a lot of information and a lot of other people on things that we didn't know a whole lot about.
Well, it's very generous of you. It's something that most people would rather not know about, because when you know about it too much, it in itself is very disturbing. You realize that tonight with some of the things that we were saying, just how disturbing it can be. Pure evil, as you
Absolutely
mentioned.
pure evil. Took the words out of my mouth.
Pure
and I mean
evil.
it's so evil that, you know, there's probably the cabal. The cabal is absolutely at the top of it, but you know who's at the tippy top, because this is that special type of evil that old Stitch is at the head of. You know, I don't think man can organize and quarterback as well as the tempter, you know, the accuser of the brethren. So like I said, I commend you for what you're doing. I know it has to be. Speaking of which, you being a whistleblower, you coming out and having that courage to tell what these people have done to you and others,
right?
What have you received any kind of backlash, or has there been anybody, like with the gang stalking and all that? Has there been anybody try to shut you up?
That's a good question. I think sometimes I'll notice, like after I put out a new book, or if I've done a big interview, that the targeting goes up, the sleep deprivation. There seems to be a price to pay for it all. It's like, yes, Mr. Bell, you can say what you want, but there'll be a price to pay for it. So I do feel that there is a little bit of that price to pay, but I don't see anyone else that's willing to take the risk to tell the world information that it would really rather not know, but it needs to know.
You're absolutely right. And, you know, being in deliverance ministry and seeing literal demons, devils manifesting people. I heard an old preacher who I look up to say that, you know, when you get into this with us, when you get into this barrel, there's always going to be a price to pay. And I never understood that, but the people around us sometimes pay that price as well.
Right.
And it could be, I mean, and that everything's a deterrent. And that's how you know they're playing for the same team. They would hurt somebody that you care about, or at the very least, this mind control madness that they do, basically be mental terrorists to them, just because you're telling the truth. They punish you for doing the right thing.
That's the other thing too. You can be, I never realized you have to be, even when you're telling the truth. I mean, when it first happened to me, when I was first drugged and abducted and left the back of my apartment, I didn't know what to do at the beginning. Am I supposed to call the police? But then they're going to ask for proof. And so I said, but I knew that I had been drugged. So I went to the hospital and told them exactly. I spoke to a private investigator. I said, and they said, sounds like what you may have been drugged with is something called scopolamine, or devil's breath. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one, but that's a
no, I've never heard of that before. Devil's breath.
It's the most powerful. It's the most powerful drug in the world. It is. It's a drug that causes people to completely have complete amnesia before the drugging and after. It's and it's odorless, colorless, and tasteless. It's called scopolamine, or devil's breath. And when I asked for that, when I went to because when this happened to me, I had to do something. I couldn't just, it wasn't just another day for me. I recovered in my apartment, but I knew I'd been taken and something terrible had happened to me. So when I went to the hospital and tried to explain to them what happened to me, that's when they use the medical position against a person, to say, oh, I think that we should, even though you're telling the truth, it may be a truth that's too uncomfortable for them to believe, but it's the truth nonetheless.
It's the truth nonetheless. Just because the truth, and see, that's the thing about it. That's the thing about truth. That's why people say they have their own truth, because sometimes the truth makes you look in the mirror and say, okay, I have to come in accordance with this, because what I'm believing and what I'm living is a lie. This is truth. So instead of moving out of that zone where they become comfortable, they'd rather say, well, no, that's your truth. This is my truth. My truth is none of this exists because I'm not going through it, until they do. Instead of accepting as is the unequivocal truth and having a voice of protest against it.
I agree.
But anyways, we've gone an hour and 10 minutes, and I could go another 3 hours, but we usually wrap it up in 10. Can we do this? Would you be interested in doing a part 2? Because I know you have tons of information to give.
Well, I'd love to. I'm just grateful that you're interested in hearing some of my research and some of my studies and some of the things that I've written about. I'm just grateful that you're willing to listen to more. I have tons of stuff that I never get to, but it's hard.
And I felt that, not to interrupt, I'm sorry, but I felt that. I felt that we just barely scraped the surface. And that's why I'm more than happy to do a series with you if you're interested, because this is information. I got a good crowd. I got some smart people over here, some pretty sharp gardening tools, and we all believe in truth with the capital T. So, and that's what you're bringing to the table. So absolutely, like, you have an open invitation back, and when we get backstage, we'll exchange numbers and we can do a part 2 tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, I'm a gunslinger. I shoot from the hip. So yeah,
well, I'm just grateful that I'm here today. Although although last week we couldn't connect, today we're connecting. So I'm just so grateful. I just when I heard your voice and I knew that we were connected. I was worries all day. I was worried. I was like, will the connection go through? Will I connect? So I was very grateful when I heard your voice and we were making the connection. It made me feel real good. So thank you for that.
Yes, sir. I sincerely appreciate it. And I try to make everyone feel welcome, because it's like you're stepping into my home. And again, everybody, I can speak on behalf of this live chat here. They were all very attentive. And would you be willing to take a few questions before we jump off?
Sure.
All right, folks. Y'all know what time it is. Question and answer time. I'll play a short video for y'all, give you time to put those questions in, so we can and again, put them in all caps so we can see what's going on. And and we're gonna be doing a little show afterwards with the Sword and the Spirit, a follow up to this Sunday. But again, I'm gonna play a little short video, and Mr. Michael and myself are gonna, if you want, Mike, go get grab a glass of water, whatever, to be a little 2-minute interval. Okay. And when we come back, we'll get that question answered out of the way.
Sure.
All right, outstanding, folks. Now's the time. Remember, put them in all caps. We'll be right back.
It's not meant to cause distress emotionally to any individual. Hey, YouTube, the Baron wants no smoke.
I just think the big thing that Dee is doing is phenomenal. It's just great. And the dogman thing, but you see, when a guy like this comes around, you have a real son of Oklahoma. Mr. Doss is an American patriot in the arena of these make-believe monsters. I love to play make-believe. USCD is a black man, and wow, just that's great, because the Bigfoot is black as well. He's black and Bigfoot is. Guess what? He is black. My gosh, it's simple, folks. And since Bigfoot is black and did well naturally, he is a Blackwood. It isn't hard to see. And since Bigfoot is black, so this felony has the advantage. White ain't always right. It took years for the Baron to convince me he wasn't Tarzan. Folks, honestly, I still think he might be. I mean, my goodness, folks, he was just always in the woods talking to animals. The craziest things
I'm talking into a muted mic. That's what's going on. All right. Sorry about that, Mike. You you back with us? We got a few that have come through. The first one is from, and I'll just to show you, folks they love you. So glad you had this guy on, D. This is amazing, such validation. So there's a couple of people I've seen. I mean, like I told you backstage before we got on the show, once you stand out, all it takes sometimes is one person to step up and talk about this kind of stuff, and it makes other people bold, and that's a beautiful thing. So the first question is from this young lady, Donna Stokes, a great friend of the channel. How did you get people to believe you and not just say you're nuts?
That's a very difficult. That's a really great question.
It is. It really is.
That's one of the things I wrote about in my first book. I said, you know, what would happen if you found out that all of these things that were actually true? How do you convey that to people without having them think that you're mentally ill? But when you have pieces of information like the 2018 Battle for the Brain initiative by Dr. James Giordano, those things, they're telling you that these things are actual and really happening. So it's not science fiction. It's a science fact for some of these things. The confirmation, definitely. But it is hard. It's hard. You have to educate people so that they understand the technologies, because they can't understand something that they're not familiar with. They have to be educated.
You're absolutely right. And
so for me, I had to. Well, one of the things when I flew around the world collecting medical evidence, because collecting medical evidence is very expensive. And in this country, you have to have a prescription to get an MRI or an X-ray or an ultrasound. But in certain countries, all you have to have is the money. And you can actually tell them what you want to have done. You can go to Europe like I did. You can go to England, or you can go to Spain a couple of times like I have gone. And a trip like that probably set me back about $20,000 or $30,000. But the information that I get from a trip like that, when I have ultrasounds that are recognizing that there are foreign objects in your body, then there's not much that they can argue about that. So with the medical evidence, those facts helped my case immensely, especially the first book. I had an implant removed from my front lower left jaw, and there's two photographs I took of it that are in the first book, The Invisible Crime. It's interesting. It was something I could feel underneath the skin in my gum, and then I asked, that's the other thing too. Even if you have something, it's hard to find somebody who wants to remove it. They don't want to be involved, especially an implant. Most of the people run from you. They don't want to have anything to do with you because they realize that if you've been implanted, that it's something much bigger. And so I think to answer the person who said before, how do you make people believe you? And without saying that you're nuts, you have to show them the facts. You have to tell them about the technologies. You have to you have to have evidence and proof. Um, the evidence and proof from the ultrasounds and MRIs are you can't argue with that. No one's
That's tangible evidence. That's not
right.
that's not somebody could say eyewitness account is, even if it's the victim's account, which is madness, but they could call that circumstantial evidence. It's not circumstantial if it's tangible. If you say, hey, look at this MRI that was done by this doctor that has nothing to do with me, that I didn't know until I came to him to get this MRI. This is the implant that I've been telling you about. You can see tangible evidence and proof of it in this x-ray. So yeah, I mean, you had super credibility then.
Well, but also that's the other thing too that people don't understand. Well, there was another question too. I'm sorry. Wasn't there?
Yeah, you got a couple through here. Actually, folks are throwing in some good ones.
I hope I answered that one sufficiently for that person.
Without them saying so, I would say so. It was very thorough.
I tried. It's a good question.
Very good question. How did you discover, and this one's from Cajun Jules, how did you discover they were abducting you?
Or how did I discover that? Yes, because that's a very good question too, because when it's done perfectly, you can go to sleep. If it's done perfectly to you, the team of people that come in, it's called a sandman team. And if they come into your house and knock you out, sometimes they do the surgery right there. In the morning you wake up, you're none the wiser. You don't even realize anything happened. When it's done perfectly, you won't even realize that you were taken. But how did I discover that they were abducting me? Because they would drug me. I could never find the source. One time I made the connection that it was something that I drank, but other times I couldn't figure out, was it in the water? Was it in my medication? How were they able to drug me? I couldn't understand it. But then
I'd say medication. That would be my guess. The pharmaceutical companies.
Well, I think what it is that when I discovered how they were abducting me, because it was happening on a regular basis. I mean, it was happen every 2 or 3 weeks, and this happened about 10 or 12 times over a year period. And I have something that's called a photographic memory. And so that's what, at least I'm told that. When I was tested when I was a child, they would say I have a photographic memory because I would test so high on these memory tests that they would give me that I was off the chart. But what happened to me with my memory is that because I have a good memory, I was able to remember portions of because when they took me for 8 days, they were constantly drugging me. So there were times when one dosage was wearing off and then it was almost time for them to give me another one. But I remembered enough things enough things happened for me to remember that I would realize that it wasn't just my imagination, that I was actually being taken out of my apartment. And at one point, I don't know where I was, but I was underground somewhere. It was cold. The walls were concrete. Felt like I was underground somewhere. and very dark and cold. And that's where they were. That's where I remember being lying on a table and having the doctor stand over me. So when you say, how did you discover they were abducting you? It was the memory between the druggings that let me know. I mean, I don't know what happened when I was under the influence of whatever they gave me, but for the brief periods of time before and after, um, I was aware that that I was being taken out of my apartment, and I was doing everything I could to prevent it from happening. Because I didn't know when it was going to stop. Is this the last one? Are they done with me? You know, you wonder all these things, and um, but with the question, how did you discover they were abducting you? It's the memories that I had, um, and also I I was I was doing everything I could to prevent it from happening again. Like when I was in my apartment in Hollywood, California, when I went to sleep at night, I would barricade the door, you know, to make sure there's no way that anyone can come in here. You know, I'm putting like a chest, drawers in front of the door, barricading. But sometimes um, uh, this group, this criminal cabal is so powerful that they can bypass any security system. They can pick any lock. Uh, they can do anything. They can pretty much do anything, and they do. But I hope I was able to answer that person's questions. How did you discover they were abducting you? It was mostly by the memories. I remember being in a different place that was not my apartment. And I remember looking out the window because I lived in Hollywood, California at the time when this is happening to me. And so I knew what Hollywood and Beverly Hills and Bel Air and that whole area, I know what that area looks like. So when I was at one point, they had me in a mansion. I wrote about this in the first book. I was in a mansion, and it was like between druggings. I was in a room in someone's house in this mansion, but whatever they had given me made my eyes dilate. So they were very sensitive to the light, but there was a window in the room. And this is one of the things I knew how they were abducting me. There was a window in the room, and it looked right up to the hills of Bel Air and
Whoa.
and Beverly Hills. And I recognized the hills, even though I hadn't been to that house before and seen them from that area. When I looked out the window, I recognized some of the other houses and the hills and the trees that I'd seen when I was driving through parts of Los Angeles. So I recognized that it was probably Bel Air, but that was just one of the. But hopefully, I answered that person's question. So
Well,
I'm so sorry.
I haven't. No, nothing to be sorry about. This is you're doing fantastic. You're very gracious and humble guest, and I appreciate that about you. I had a question though on
Sure.
that. Those same hills, if you remember, there was a gentleman who was an FBI agent back in the 80s and 90s, whose name escapes me, of course, but he's the one that kind of brought forth the ritualistic abuse that was taking place. And some of these kids were saying they were flying out to these hills, and some say it was towards Bohemian Grove and all that. And some said it was probably close to this area that you're talking about. And we know that this cabal at the very top, these elite, whatever, the Illuminati, whatever anybody wants to call them,
Right.
they're conducting this orchestra. So do you think, and wow, do you think that how close are they working with this military, I'm sorry, basically black ops things? That's what it seems like to me. If the military industrial complex is putting it on, like it has to have some military application. So
Right. I mean,
continuation
you have
of MK Ultra. Yep.
Yeah, MK Ultra, and I mean,
Convoluted question. I'll get the easy one. How close do you think that the elite are working with the military in the development of this stuff?
oh,
Because that sounds
Completely.
hands-on. Yeah.
Completely. I mean, the allocation for the funding for these black ops, that permission comes from the cabal. They're the ones the cabal are above the military. The military has to take its orders from someone, and it's the cabal. So yeah, these people, they run the world. They control everything. They control the stock market. They control the weather. They control people's minds. They control. I mean, it's amazing. And here's the formula too for this crime that I wrote about, and for all of these crimes. It's the same formula: money plus power equals control.
And they seem to keep that all within this tight knit little circle of blood drinking weirdos, so
Yes, correct. That's right. That with the adrenochrome.
the
Correct.
adrenochrome, that's exactly right.
Correct.
And
Yes. This is something I wrote about. I can't believe that you mentioned this, because this is something I wrote about in the new book, American Cyborg. Part, not all, but part of the cabal is believed to be satanic, and that's and those practices are. They're beyond. It's almost you. Even though I wrote about it in the book, I almost can't even say the practices, the rituals, or so. The adrenochrome already is disturbing enough.
Tip of the iceberg. Yeah, I know all about that, and just because it's all connected, because my arena is more of that magic with the K that they do. Like, it's the Crowleyism that they observe. And like you said, some of the stuff, the drinking the adrenochrome stuff, just tip of the iceberg. They do unspeakable, ungodly things. And it's to lower their vibrational frequency, or whatever they want to call it.
To get, I mean, even just to get the adrenochrome, that comes, the harvesting of that comes from their own children. And not only is it their own children, but to the point where the children are frightened to the point where they think they're going to die. Then their blood is so rich with adrenaline that they harvest the blood from those children, young children, beneath the age of 5 generally, and they will use that adrenochrome either orally or injected, and it becomes addictive for them. It becomes an addiction for them. So that's, I mean, just one of the terrible things one of the terrible things that they do. But I didn't know if there was another question too, or if I didn't, if I misanswered someone's question, please don't be afraid to if I didn't cover it, don't be afraid to ask me. I didn't know if there was another question. Are you still there? Hello? Are we still there?
Yeah, you were still. That was
good.
crazy. My graphics card crashed, which has never happened before. I usually, because I edit videos and stuff together covering some of the information we have spoken about, and I've never had a graphics card crash. that one's a new one. But oh well, I apologize for that, crowd. Guess
That's okay. I'm just glad you're still here. When I see your picture on there, I'm like, he's there. Great. I'm
yeah,
just so
they took him out.
Yeah, it's so grateful. I wasn't sure if you were hearing me or not, but I didn't know if I answered that question sufficiently or
Now, that was a phenomenal answer, as have all your answers been, as of all your information has been. I have another question. I saw somebody that put it in small letters, but have you heard of anything about the O negative blood type in conjunction with any of this stuff?
Specifically, I have not. I know that that's the most, the rarest type of blood.
Right. Oldest known as well. Like
Right.
date back.
Correct. The oldest and purest known, so to speak.
He said, Levi says he asked where the best place to find his books are. There'll be if there's not now, I'm pretty sure I'll link them in the description box below. I'll double check it after the show. And for all who want, please do go down and buy his books. I'm going to, and definitely I'm going to go through all your books because you got a lot of good pertinent information, and you're a good man.
Well, you're nice. You're very nice to invite me on your show, and you have a very well attuned audience. Your listeners are asking good questions and the right questions. They're
the right questions. Yeah,
they're really amazing questions. Yeah. Any other questions that you might, or if there's another?
I think we pretty much hit them all.
Okay.
So yeah, Mr. Michael Fitzhugh Bell, ladies and gentlemen, you can find his books in the description box below.
I wanted to say, if I could,
absolutely.
I have one plug. I was saying the information that I've spoken about. If you go to the free website, freedomfightersforamerica.com, you'll see all of the information that I've discussed, and you'll see actual X-rays and MRIs and descriptions of how brain-computer interface works. It's a very good website, and it's free, completely free. freedomfightersforamerica.com. And then I have two websites that are mine. One is michaelfbell.com, and the other is invisiblecrime.com. And the books are available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and wherever fine books are sold.
Outstanding. And I will definitely be linking that in the chat below. I think that's going to become a new resource for information. Again, and I applaud you, and I have 10 tons of respect for the fact that you came in here like a rocket with facts, information that can be expanded upon. You basically gave everybody a level one of the knowledge of many different things regarding everything that you've been through and then some. So on behalf of my entire channel, I'd like to thank you for that. So
thank you. I'm grateful.
Unless you have anything else, Mike.
Well, I just wanted to say thanks to the audience for listening and for asking such great questions, really good questions. The perfect questions too. The questions that everybody would want to know were asked. So I'm grateful for your listeners, and I'm grateful for this interview and for this opportunity. So thank you so much.
As am I, sir, and I sincerely appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Michael Fitzhugh Bell, I am D. Doss, the Baron of Bigfoot, and this has been a fantastic show. It's my new favorite. All my shows are my favorite, but this gentleman, I got a feeling we're going to be good friends as well. He's going to come back and share even more of this litany of information he has for you. Thank you again, chat. Y'all are always great. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button to this channel, hit like on this video, share it with your friends. For all who want to contribute towards this channel, the links are in the chat with you right now and in the description box below. You guys be blessed and have a good night.